Last week we talked about awareness, why you can't change what you can't see. And for a lot of people, that lands. You start to notice something more clearly. You notice you're overwhelmed, but still trying to keep up. You're low on energy, but still expecting yourself to function at full capacity. You feel wired or pressured, but you're trying to follow a plan that assumes you're steady. You can see the mismatch between how you feel and what you're asking yourself to do. And once you see that, it feels like something should change. But often it doesn't. You still push through. You still override what you're feeling. You still try to follow the same plan. And this is where it gets frustrating, because now you can see it and you're still doing the same thing. It's easy to assume something is wrong with you, that you're not trying hard enough, or that awareness is supposed to be enough. But there's something else happening underneath this. The first piece is state. State is the condition your system is in. On one end, you feel settled, clear, connected. In the middle, a bit pressured, a bit scattered. Further along, overwhelmed, wired, stretched. And sometimes low, heavy, even shut down. Wherever you are on that spectrum changes what feels possible in that moment. I saw this really clearly at one point in my own life. By that time, I had a lot of tools, the best medical training could offer, and what I had added when I left the road well-traveled, including breath work, meditation, brain gym, heart math, you name it. When I was in a more clear, settled state, those tools felt obvious, accessible, almost simple. But when I was overwhelmed or wired or depleted, it was like they were on the shore and I was out in the water. Sometimes hard to see and just out of reach, but most of the time not even visible. And then I'd come back into a more settled state and I'd think, how was I so disconnected from something I know so well? It didn't make sense until I started to see that what I had access to changed depending on the state I was in. Access changes with state. The second piece is capacity. Capacity is how much you actually have available to think clearly, to make decisions, to follow through, to change course. Not what you should be able to do, but what's actually available. Another way to think about it, capacity is your system's ability to stay organized and adaptive, no matter what's happening. This is where it helps to separate capacity from bandwidth. Bandwidth is how much you have going on. Capacity is how much you can actually handle. Those aren't always the same. Another way to say it is bandwidth is how much is on your plate. Capacity is how you're able to deal with it. For example, you can have very little going on and still feel like it's too much. Or you can have a lot going on and feel steady enough to move through it. This is where capacity really matters, because capacity isn't just about how much you're doing. It's about whether your system has enough energy, space, steadiness to pause and to do something different. You can understand exactly what needs to change and still not have the capacity to act on it. Not because you don't agree with it, not because you don't want to, but because there isn't enough there to do anything differently yet. That's the part that's easy to miss. So when you're overwhelmed, your capacity is already limited. When your energy is low, there's not much available to draw from. When you're wired or pressured, slowing down doesn't feel accessible, even if you know you need it. So you can see clearly and still not have access to a different response yet. The third piece is regulation. Regulation is your system's ability to move along that spectrum of states, how easily you can shift, how much flexibility you have. If you're overwhelmed and you can settle within a few minutes, that's higher regulation. And if you're overwhelmed and you stay there all day, that's lower regulation. Regulation affects capacity, because if you can shift your state, you can access more options. So now you have three things: your state, where you are, your capacity, what you can do from there, and your regulation, how easily that can change. Back to awareness and that first step. When you see that you're overwhelmed, for example, you're seeing your state. But seeing that doesn't automatically increase your capacity. It doesn't automatically change what's available to you. Awareness shows you what's happening. It doesn't automatically change what you're able to do next. This is a simple way of understanding what's happening. There's a much deeper physiological layer to this. How these states are generated, how capacity changes in the body, and what actually supports those shifts. I'll go into that in more detail, including a clinician-focused version next. But even just seeing this piece, that awareness doesn't equal capacity, changes how you approach things. Instead of asking, why can't I follow through? You start asking, what state am I in right now? What do I actually have capacity for? Is this something my system can carry right now? And that's where things start to change. If this resonates, there's more on this on my website. You can start there or follow along here as this unfolds.